I am.
This
Recording is
meeting
in
is being
progress.
recorded.
Okay, everybody knows we're being recorded now. Okay, first off, I wanted to thank everybody for taking time out of their very busy schedules. I'm Bill Berg. I've been around for a few days here at the company, 35 years and counting. One of the things that I was very interested in is that the League and Leverage have offered many different types of products and services to credit unions to help them grow and succeed. We continually strive to get feedback from our credit unions to understand their needs and gain insight into trends and specific products, which will help us determine to where we need to focus our efforts. Hang on a second, I gotta admit somebody. Where'd they go? Oh, okay. And a couple of the products that we've put together over the last few years has been the Leverage Benefits Group and also True Treasury. So today we're going to be talking about an opportunity to help reduce fraud that's happening in the credit union industry. And we have really a group of excellent folks here to talk to you about it. I'm going to just kind of go through a quick, brief introduction of all the folks. We have Christopher Carney. He's the CEO and founder. He has more than 20 years experience in this field. He worked for a European financial crime intelligence software company. He worked for ADT, Diebold, just a couple of household names that we've all heard of a few times. All right, I got somebody to admit here. Sheila Jones coming in. Okay, and then we have Rick McCurry. He has almost 40 years in the field. I mentioned a minute ago, we have Robert Luciano. He is an executive team member. He's one of the attorneys from Crime-Tel that's on this call. We also have Alicia Bloom, and Alicia went to a couple schools. Some of you might have heard of Columbia and Harvard. My degrees over there are from FSU, not exactly Harvard, but we'll call it Harvard of the South. I'm kidding. And then we have Sean Walter. Both Alicia and Sean have more than 20 years experience. So we've got some folks with some outstanding experience here on this call today. And so without further ado, we are going to, and here's the more complete bios. I gave you the real short version because you know what, nobody wants to really hear that stuff from me so much. So Chris, you are up, sir, and take it away.
Hey, thank you very much, Bill. And good afternoon, everyone. So before we begin, my colleagues and I want to thank Alan Babcock and, of course, Bill Berg, Leverage and LSCU for speaking with us on an ongoing basis regarding our new and innovative offering and for arranging this event today. We also thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's, tending towards later in the afternoon, and they have always been cognizant of there's 2 times you don't want to be a speaker. The first thing in the morning and pretty much the last one in the afternoon, generally if you're at an event, because you're standing between the crowd and the open bar that stands behind you. Let me just continue and say that as CEO of our firm, I've led efforts along with my colleagues to respond to the guidance that we have received to seek to work within the credit union industry to introduce the very first QSO focused on crime intelligence as a service. Just as a note, if you have the time and the interest and you go to Google, and you can actually Google crime as a service. The criminals are very active out there, and we're here to help solve a challenge. We have 2 goals: to provide a much needed solution to mitigate the risks and threats of crime, and secondly, to create a new path of revenue, working with a group of interested parties in creating a specialized QSO. Bill, because we've covered the intros and the bios, can we slide to slide number 4, please? Here we go, we're on it. So company information. Our company was founded in 2013, initially focusing on utilizing years of experience to consult with credit unions and banks. However, along the way, we realized the problem to solve existed in the absence of a true collaboration platform for aggregating and sharing data that was and still is being shared informally and among professionals in the physical security, fraud, cybersecurity, and intelligence arenas. Bill, if we could move to the next slide.
Okay.
So today, we're grateful in this agenda to present our views to all of you on an opportunity that we hope will lead to further discussions regarding our objective, to work with a group of professionals from the credit union industry who agree that there is a challenge to address and who share our views to create a new path to revenue with a new technology and innovative technology. This is the sort of the framework for our presentation today. And Bill, I guess we can go to slide number 6. And at this point, let me turn it over to my colleague, Rick McCurry, who's on the call today and has some comments to make to all of you. Rick?
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. Crime-Tel, crime intelligence as a service will really change the way we approach crime prevention. As we all know, crimes against financial institutions continues to not improve, and if anything, in certain areas, it's increasing. We see attack vectors continually shifting as criminals become more sophisticated in their methods. And as a result, your organizations experience monetary losses, liability, erosion of capital, adverse impacts on your brand, erosion of member confidence, and lost production. Sometimes crime has a more profound impact on people, such as physical injury, PTSD, or even loss of life. And those are the more extreme situations that we certainly never want to see happen, but they do happen. So as you strive to prevent crime against your organizations, there are many challenges in doing so. First of all, the use of crime data is critical for you to be successful in preventing crime. Without crime data, we really don't know what's going on out there. We're in the dark and unable to really make a move if we're not seeing good crime data come our way. However, crime data currently does not exist in a collaborative database that can tell you when, who, where, how the crime is being committed, particularly within your areas of operation. Crime trends are often discovered only after credit union members or the credit unions themselves have become victim. And lastly, investments in security products and services are often made without adequate data to support that investment. Whereas an intelligence-led security philosophy, along with the right tool, will provide the data you need to drive appropriate, targeted, and timely security investments. And if we can move to the next slide, please. We all know that there are specific regulations that need to be complied with regarding security. For example, when developing your security programs and prevention measures, regulations require that you consider incidents of crimes against other financial institutions in the area. And this data is not always available. To be able to comply with these regulations and to adequately protect your organizations, you want to be able to detect, alert, and ultimately prevent crimes from occurring. What currently prevents you from effectively doing this is the ability to detect local crime in real time, or at least as close as possible to real time. Another challenge is that crime data that is currently shared by law enforcement or even the private sector is shared inconsistently and inefficiently, usually due to the lack of unified strategy and an appropriate platform. We recognize that to help prevent crime and reduce risk, a robust platform is needed to drive instant alerting, creating situational awareness for our organizations. And our vision is a collaboration by association members through crime intelligence as a service, which will create a force multiplier, enhancing compliance, contributing to loss avoidance, and even generating revenue. And if we can move to the next slide, please. There are many benefits to Crime-Tel. And just to point out a few, and I think these are the most important, Crime-Tel tells a positive story to your regulators. It can help credit unions focus on more immediate and pertinent threats that present greater risk to the organization, and it will drive more proportionate investment in security prevention measures and in our crime prevention measures. It also serves as a powerful tool to determine crime foreseeability, so there's some predictability to it, and provides real-world intelligence enabling prompt response to threats, resulting in more secure environment for your employees and members. And with that, I will turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you, Rick. Can we go to the next slide, Bill? So let me share with you all that the genesis of Crime-Tel was created from our collective industry experience. We consider our firm to be a fintech technology business, as we've created an innovative technology that will serve to help credit unions experience, through collaboration, enhanced efficiency with respect to automating the process associated with identifying local crimes and threat risk. The outcome of this effort will support a shift from reaction to a proactive state to not only identify new trends, but serve to help predict crime as well. Most importantly, this new service will create a force multiplier in meeting and mitigating risks as membership and use of the platform expands. Next slide, Bill. To understand Crime-Tel, one must understand that it's focused on the 4 principles of intelligence. Human, or human intelligence, meaning person-to-person communications. Geoment, or the incorporation of geographical information systems, geospatial, which displays visualization of events. IMENT, or photo intelligence associated with the utilization of images. And of course, lastly, OSINT, which stands for open source intelligence, gathering data from a number of different sources that are available. We go to the next slide, Bill. Crime-Tel is a very new innovation service application. It is capable of aggregating data either on a crowdsourced basis where users can contribute new data, or data can be added using OSINT methods, or lastly, via connecting to other source systems. We can take this up in the Q&A session and drill down on that last one a bit as we conclude the presentation. Next slide, Bill. Crime-Tel, as a hosted service application, allows users to work with timely information, analyze the data, receive customized alerts, and view and understand what crimes are happening in proximity to your locations. This in turn supports the ability for users to understand trends, to be in front of these threats and risks, to make mitigation decisions and take actions to prevent from being victimized. We, along the way in our development, one of the things we realized is that we parallel with a technology I'm sure many of you already know called the Waze GIS travel application. The Crime-Tel operates in a similar manner, allowing for posting of new events and the addition of data points to those events by others, which enriches the current status of being aware of criminal activities as they change and morph, which in turn results in the creation of situational awareness for users. Next slide, Bill, please. As I mentioned in the outset of the meeting, our business strategy focuses on working with a CUSO for several reasons. Number one, an association such as LSCU Leverage has a ready membership that can benefit through the use of Crime-Tel. Secondly, such an arrangement brings together parties that mutually benefit from the service and together can shape the evolution of it, meaning the product, while mutually sharing in the newly created revenue streams. Next slide, Bill. This slide serves to present an image of a workflow based on our thoughts on a mutual path to new revenue through the creation of a CUSO. It starts with an agreement to engage, identifies the initial strategic steps to take, and identifies key objectives as we strive to achieve success. Next slide, Bill. This is a summary of the process as we see it. When we move to reach to an agreement and to create a collaboration in order for a strategy to go to market. Let me now share a view of Crime-Tel and touch upon some of the key functions that we believe make it truly unique. Bill, relative to the poll questions, do you prefer to run any poll questions now? Would you like to hold off?
I think we'll hold off. I've been skipping right through them. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll wait till the end of your, and we'll just run through those at the end of the program.
Okay. So Bill, if I could have control here to.
I will stop sharing and you're on it.
All right.
Oh, and I got somebody in the waiting room too. I missed. Sorry.
Got it. Do we now have a view of our application?
It's looking like it to me. You got welcome to Crime-Tel and Intel sharing site.
Great. So Crime-Tel as a hosted application is structured purposely to be intuitively easy to utilize. There are 6 key tabs within the application itself. What we're looking at now is basically the landing page or the landing tab, which allows users to quick step to any of the other 5 other pages. The home tab gives a presentation of the 30 most recent events which are registering into Crime-Tel. This map is an intuitive, interactive map that is capable, as in our vision for our strategy going forward. We see this. We see Crime-Tel and its delivery into the market growing on a localized basis, but certainly being repeatable and scalable to an international level. We've had conversations with parties that have expressed interest in that, and we'll hold off on that for a later moment. As I said, looking at 30 different events at a time, this is a GIS reflection. It allows for a drill down from a satellite level to a local view, including a street level view of a particular event or an incident. And as you can see, Crime-Tel has a history of data in it already, which has a lot of value unto itself as data to conduct analysis for historical trends relating to crimes across the United States. This next tab is called the Crime Locations tab. On this page, a listing of all entries, event entries are presented in reference to the address, the type of event, the date and time it's been discovered, whether or not law enforcement was notified. And I just want to touch on that comment for a moment, as whether you're if you're in the risk environment, if you're in the security environment, if you're in the fraud environment, all of us know that there are certain times and occasions when we're addressing a particular event that may come up that we have not yet determined is appropriate for many different reasons to inform law enforcement. There is a feature within Crime-Tel that identifies for the user community whether or not any of the events have or have not been reported out. Additionally, on this page, you'll see a geolocation. So you have your street address, city, state, zip, the type of crime, the date and time it was discovered, whether or not it was reported to law enforcement, and the paperclip at the end indicates attachments. Attachments can be any documents or images that are associated with particular events. Crime-Tel contains many helpful features. As an example, there's a wild search. So for instance, if I wanted to view simply instances of events associated with the state of Florida, it allows me to quickly search and return those results. Every one of these tabs presents the opportunity feature to sort, search, and to basically structure data the way you want to see it. I have to add a commercial message here saying that because our team understands that many of the products and services that have ever come to market tend to be software and or services that have fixed format to them. Meaning as people are delivering services or solutions, they're pretty much set based on context of existing information. The reality is that criminals often morph and change what their attack process is, which results in often, if you're using some software, to have to go back to a developer or to a supplier to get them to modify that. Crime-Tel was built to address crime and threats and intelligence in an agnostic manner, meaning users can define new types of trends and new types of crime as they emerge. I would tell you, having worked at Diebold, an example where this sort of hits home. As a senior director at Diebold, one of my responsibilities was to review new product, meaning the new ATM environment for rollout. I would look at the global order strategy. In a particular case, I asked a question as to why we were deploying ATMs to Europe that had a Send 4 rated safe inside the ATM, which is basically a safe that prevents the explosion of the safe when people use either C5 hard explosives or introduce gas for the purpose of exploding the ATM in an attack. The answer I received back was it wasn't, Send 4 was not being deployed in the United States because there was no data available to support that explosives were a risk to the user community, the financial institutions within the markets. I would tell you that has changed. As we saw several years ago, there were multiple attacks upon ATMs with the use of explosives, particularly in the Philadelphia area and other areas throughout the United States. We've been able to address that by building into Crime-Tel the definition, an agnostic approach to definition, so that if people wanted to explore some of those activities, you could actually see those types of attacks and where they've occurred. And you could drill down to each of these and you can start to see the patterns. You can sort them by states, you can sort them by cities. And really what Rick had alluded to earlier is this is an intelligence-led tool to help you understand what is happening, where it's happening, when it's happening, and how criminals change. So let me step back for a moment and let me take you into a recent incident. And because we're online with Florida, I'm going to pick a situation down in Miami. This is an event. Some of you may not be aware, but there's a new terminology among the law enforcement community and those who are in the security investigation space and others called ATM smash and grab. Unfortunately, this didn't exist 5 years ago. There was no such terminology of ATM smash and grab. COVID created this situation. What happened as in the era or the time frame of COVID, as branches began to close and the process to upload more cash to the ATMs to keep customers accessible to having access to cash. What happened was the organized criminals found out that in fact that is an easy target. They now quantify this, started in Texas and is now spread through 40 states. And as you can see, it's an ongoing problem. Within this event, we're looking at a particular address. And again, being able to utilize this in an intuitive fashion, but to be able to go all the way down to a street level view of the attack site provides a lot of information and situational awareness for the people that are interested in seeing what's happening. The feature also presents, the Crime-Tel also presents a functionality to see a proximity map so that you're able to view exactly where an event takes place. But more importantly, if you want to consider whether or not you may have some impact, having not been yet victimized, Crime-Tel can bring you information to show you within a proximity such information as other credit unions that may be within a short distance to this type of an event. Let me go back for a moment to the event. Close out of here. Come back to the event. As I go down on this particular event, the data is all highly structured and registered. It's simply it can be a copy and paste. People can add information, but as I alluded to earlier, the ways like features and functionalities allow people to add further information as events are posted into Crime-Tel. Of note, in this particular situation, Crime-Tel generated a proximity map that identified the following credit unions: University, American Airlines, University Credit Union, Dade County, Space Coast, People Alliance, Connect Credit Union, Tropical Financial Credit Union, Power, and along with the following big banks: Chase, Wells Fargo, US, Century Bank, TD, Terra Bank, Bank of America, and Ocean Bank, all in proximity. Recall that I had mentioned the ability to add attachments. So images of suspects involved, vehicles, any type of evidentiary information, as well as the proximity maps themselves can be loaded for attachments, copied, and distributed to the user community. I think one of the real strengths of Crime-Tel, I'll point out, is that down in the lower left corner, what you see a timestamp. The timestamp is for the workflow when an event is created, who created it, and as additions and changes are made, everything is cataloged and logged. What's critically important about that is what Crime-Tel does is it creates a customized alert so that either an SMS text or an email can be created and delivered to an individual's personalized email box or to their phone. If I go back, I'll move down to the persons of interest. You all probably remember the TV show. These are images that there is no public repository of persons of interest accessible to the private sector. The FBI does not have available a platform, and many of you may recall that if you're in this area of security investigations, fraud, you would know that at what point in time the data that used to be relied upon was called the UCR report, the Uniform Crime Report, which was published for 30 years. Unfortunately, that data was of relative value because that data was published 1 year after the events took place. 3 years ago, the FBI took up a new cause and a directive to establish NIBRS, the National Incident-Based Reporting System. The intention there was to issue quarterly reports of more detailed and subject information. The reality of that, as of March of this year, NIBRS and the FBI has suspended the use of NIBRS because the 18,000 local law enforcement agencies that were to be contributing the data, less than 65% of them are contributing any data. So that project has been taken offline. Here in Crime-Tel, what you see is a reflection of the images of the individuals or the persons of interest. And if you were so inclined and had no appetite to see the full group of people, you could drill down and sort and find upon the types of persons of interest who are conducting their efforts within a particular state. You can sort them and search them by the types of crimes that they've committed. And basically at that point, if working with law enforcement, ultimately a collaboration on these trends and schemes involving organized crime as they move from city to city and from state to state, which they do, has incredible value. The member forum tab was created because myself and some of my colleagues believe firmly in the notion of best practices. So this is a feature set that allows individuals to register their email address within the application, identify, in this case, it would be the financial industry, to look at the types of categories of crime and to register a question to seek an answer or to seek a resource or a support from another colleague. The last page I'll touch upon is news to share. And again, in the area of best practices, what News to Share brings forward is timely information that can be posted for a user community. And again, because we have the feature of search and sort, we would register, we're bringing forward some of the most recent indicators from public media relative to pertinent information of some of the problematic issues affecting the state of Florida. So with that being said, that sort of concludes our demonstration of the application service Crime-Tel. And Bill, maybe now would be a good time to go to the poll questions.
I think that's a great idea. Give me a few seconds to pull it over. And here comes poll question number 1. And I'm going to go ahead and read it, and I'll give you a little bit of time. Question is, would you agree that having access to local, regional, and national timely crime data in Intel Exchange is important and supports regulatory compliance? It's an easy one, yes or no? And we're seeing a lot of people saying yes. We're not seeing any no's. You guys, I'll let it go for another few seconds here. Got a couple more people coming in. I can see the results. Can y'all see the results? I don't think you can yet, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we're close enough. I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. That was a real no-brainer question. 21 out of 21 people said, yeah, we think this would be helpful information for us. So, all right, we're going to stop sharing that one, and we're going to run up poll question number 2. See, that's not what I wanted to do. That's giving me a little bit of trouble here. I don't know why it's let's see if this, oh, it still keeps I've got 4 more questions and they don't seem to want to pop up here. Don't know why it's doing that. We'll just blame that on operator error. How about that? Oh, wait, here we go. I got it. Okay, so we have question number 2. I'm launching right now. Would you agree that identifying, tracking, trending, and predicting new crime is important? Again, it's a yes, no. We're seeing a lot of yeses there. We'll let that go until it gets to about 21, kind of like what we were before. And we got 21 respondents. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. Everybody thinks that this is a good idea. And, you know, kind of going back to what Chris said earlier about the Waze application of this, I think the more people are involved in this, what happens in Tallahassee might be happening over in Dothan. It's not that far away. It's a different state, but it's just, you know, I can be in Dothan in about, you know, an hour and 15 minutes or so. So anyway, that I think is really one of the important characteristics here of this. Okay, so let's do poll number question number 3. This one's a little bit longer. No, I'm sorry, I lied. Would you pay for a subscription to this service for your credit union if you had the opportunity? And now we're getting a little bit of a breakdown. We're seeing some people, yeah, we're getting a nice split. Boy, it's almost 50-50 there for a few seconds. All right, and it looks like I'm going to let it go for a few more seconds. All right, I'm ending the poll and I'll share the results. The results are about 71% of the credit unions on this that answered this today said that they would be willing to pay for a subscription to get this kind of actionable intelligence. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that one and I'm going to go back. We're going to do question 4, which is, here you go. Would you agree that creating a first Crime-Tel as a service, QSO in the country working with leverage and a select group of credit unions to resell across the industry, generating a new stream of revenue is of value for the industry? So yes or no, what do you think? There's a little bit more of a complex question, but we're getting good results here. Got 20, we got 24 answers. Now I'm going to let it go for another second or two. Yeah, we're at 26. Actually, I'm mistaken. We're at 13. My bad. Okay, I'm ending the poll and I'm sharing the results. It turns out that 12 out of the 13 folks that answered the question said they thought this would be of value to the industry. One person wasn't sure it would be. So I'm stopping sharing. We are now back to our last question. I know you guys are excited about that. And let's see, this should be it right here. And okay, here we go. I'm launching the question. Would you like, this is real important. Would you like to be contacted to discuss how your credit union could participate in a newly formed QSO? And I'm going to ask you to do something else. If you're interested in this, I want you to send Alan Babcock an email, or you can send it to me. I'll get it to Alan. Either way, I don't, you send us an email because I'm not sure I'm tracking who answered what here. But if you're interested in this, that's kind of one of the gists of this conversation and why we wanted to put this webinar on, was to gauge, is this something that credit unions might be interested in doing? And so at this point, we have, I'm still getting a few answers. I'll wait a few more seconds. So, yeah, we got one more there. Good. I'll wait another few seconds here. And I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. And it turns out we have about 64%, 9 out of 14 respondents said that they would be interested in participating in a newly formed QSO to do these kinds of activities. And like I said, please send me an email or send it to Alan Babcock. And that way we can just move forward on this particular project. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now and hang this up. And Chris, I'm giving it back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for your participation in the poll questions. It's very valuable and very insightful information for us. And I'm sure for LSC, you leverage Bill and Alan. I guess at this point, I would open it up to any questions and answers in the amount of time that we have left. Happy to take any questions from anybody.
Yeah, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away, and I'll look at the chat box, but there's nothing in the chat right now. And if you want to put a question in the chat, I'll go ahead and read it for you if you want. Well, I'm not seeing anything in chat, and I'm not hearing anybody unmuting themselves. Know that a lot of you I'm going to be seeing you next month at, oh, here we go, Michelle Powers. Thank you, Michelle, for breaking the ice here for me. Okay, hang on a second. Michelle wants to know, do you have any financials available? Okay, Chris, you're up.
Yeah, so Michelle, thank you for your question. The answer to your question is simply, we do have financials. We're in a startup mode at the moment. We're a company that is based up in Massachusetts, and we've put the structure of our company together. We have a formal operating agreement as an entity. We have the financials at this point, as you probably appreciate, as an early stage company, are rather thin, but they're projections, and the projections are more about addressing the need in the market, and then working within, as we've suggested, working within a QSO environment to build out everything, including price points and details of what, drilling down on what the interest levels are so that we can narrow the scope of Crime-Tel as a tool and bring back cost estimates for us to deliver this into the hands. One of the things that I should mention, and I feel very strongly about, is that we're making a proposal here for a service to exist within the credit union industry, run by the credit unions for the credit union industry. So I dare say, in my experience, I've never seen anything like this before in the market. Our team has done a lot of research, and we think it's a very formidable and a high potential opportunity at hand.
Okay, we also got a question from Dina Hennessy. We're getting our Southeast Florida folks. We've moved down from Palm Beach County down to Broward. Dina wants to know, she would like to know what type of fees might you be talking about if somebody wanted to participate in this? And that's probably, that's a great question. I just don't know how you can even hardly answer that yet, but go ahead and give it a shot, Grace.
Well, I actually can't answer it
Oh,
because
there you go. Good, good.
yeah, so I was involved in a startup several years ago with a application for sharing at a much smaller level on a much concentrated basis in a region up here in Massachusetts. We took a local check fraud association's database and moved it from an operational static flat access database to a hosted application. And we brought that into the market, and we actually had subscribers consisting of between a market of credit unions and local banks in the Massachusetts market. What we proposed to them was we proposed a fee basis of $85 a month per branch office location. And we were, I think we were on the right track. What we failed to see and recognize is the value of the membership community itself through an association or with a QSO. Now, I do want to make a comment about price point, and I know that many of you will probably appreciate what I'm about to say, is that if we move to form a QSO, our team has a lot of experience in the provider space, meaning we have backgrounds not only as security and intelligence executives in the financial industry, but also with the suppliers. So it doesn't matter who the OEMs are that are selling you products and solutions and services today. We have folks like security integrators and numerous services that fill the bill and fit that category, whether they're cybercrime service providers, or they're providing electronic security, or they're providing alarm monitoring or surveillance. I would tell you that we've had conversation with a few of them who have suggested that it would make good sense for them to acquire us so that they in turn bring this as a service to the credit union industry. We feel that it's proper to put the data and this whole business into the hands of the people that would benefit by it most, and that would be the credit unions, who then could draw upon relationships through affinity programs with the supplier market and have the suppliers contribute the funding that would decrease the cost of ownership for the credit unions themselves.
Good answer. We've got a really excellent question from Amber Hood. I believe she's up in Montgomery at Guardians Credit Union. How can we share information on member account activity? I did not think that this might be covered under the 314B exceptions of information sharing. And then her follow-up question is, what kind of information would everyone be sharing as well? So
yeah.
And then she has a third question: are local arrests for financial crimes uploaded automatically into the system daily? So let's start with that last one first, because I think that one's a good question. Are local arrest reports reported automatically on a daily basis, or how often are they updated?
So Crime-Tel, let's think of Crime-Tel this way. Let's think of it as a utility. And let's think of it as a utility that facilitates intel sharing, crime intel sharing. The sources that are out there are numerous, okay? Whether it's a crime report, and a lot of this information is available online. And because of police reform acts, more police departments are providing more information in the open source space. The short answer to that is that identifying those types of sources of information as pertinent and interested to, let's say, hypothetically, a QSO environment in a particular region, those sources could be identified and APIs could be created to draw that data from those sources into Crime-Tel. Now, I heard mention of the 314.
Yes. Yeah. Let's go back to her first question. How can we share information on member account activity? and not get in trouble with the regulators
Right.
and the 314B
Right.
information sharing parts.
Right.
Yeah.
So 314, regulation 314, 314B, grants any financial institutions the ability to share information. It doesn't identify what type of a platform or service or how that gets shared. However, Crime-Tel, we've discussed this, that Crime-Tel could be a tool to be used for 314B sharing. It would require us to do some configuration through the QSO and obviously in agreement with the structure and the process, so that we're avoiding PII to the best as we possibly can. PII data are excluded, but where practical and certainly related to 314 money laundering events, we could structure within Crime-Tel a page, if you will, to allow those who wish to consider sharing 314B conduct their registration to do so with FinCEN as required under regulatory law, and then to use this application to be that facilitation mechanism. I would also add that Section 355 allows under Patriot Act for the sharing of information on terminated employees for cause in accordance with the regulation. Generally, it's acts of dishonesty. And I know that NCUA in their website has on the NCUA website page, has a functionality to allow credit unions to individually go in and query the NCUA historical directory for individuals. Crime-Tel could also serve to be that source, that when individuals are terminated, that information, if registered with NCUA, could also be registered within Crime-Tel and present that information in a timely manner.
Well, and her kind of a middle question that I kind of skipped over was the what kind of information would everyone be sharing? And I think I know where Amber was going with this, and I think this is a concern that I've had in the back of my mind is this: if we have a member who's done such activities that are so unusual as to become suspicious, and we're doing a suspicious activity report, we obviously know that information cannot be shared. That's in Florida, 3rd-degree felony. We don't want to go to jail or commit a felony for sure. And so you kind of, and what's interesting about what you said a moment ago about somebody who has stolen money from their credit union, that's actually one of the things thou must file a SAR on. So it's kind of like, I mean, yes, we don't know that a SAR was filed, but we actually do know that a SAR was filed. We just don't know any of the details about it. So I think that's kind of where Amber was orienting towards. So, so go ahead and hit
maybe
that.
If I could add a little bit more to that, Bill, for Amber's benefit. Crime-Tel is not a tool to be used without guidance and without respect for regulatory and legal requirement. Typically, having been a CSO myself, filing a SAR in a majority of cases went hand in hand with filing a police report. Filing a police report generally becomes public record. And even more so today with police reform, the police departments themselves are churning out these types of reports of information to the public. So if a SAR is filed and a police report had not been filed, then typically you would not be filing or remitting that type of information to Crime-Tel for sharing purposes. But if a crime took place and a report of crime was made to either local, state, or federal law enforcement of that criminal activity, and supplementally a SAR was filed, then that information could be filed within Crime-Tel, so long as the party who's contributing the information does not disclose, in fact, that a SAR was filed. That keeps the safe harbor in place, and it keeps the liability exempt.
Okay, that sounds good. I did want to, we got a couple more questions. We're getting some good questions now, and I appreciate, we have Isaac Holbrook, who works for Credit Union Loan Source up in Georgia. And he has a very technical question that I don't have a clue what it's about, but what type of technology stack would Crime-Tel leverage?
Presently, our CTO, who was on the call, Sean, had to attend another meeting. And again, Bill, as I shared with you before the call, our intent today was to give sort of a macro level overview of what our business is and what Crime-Tel is about. To get into discussions relative to the technical, I guess, looking under the hood and describing some of the technical, current state and future state. We would respectfully request that, any parties who are interested in moving to follow up with you and Alan, we would certainly engage in those discussions once we could create a mutual non-disclosure agreement.
That's a good answer. We have another nice question from Chad Burney. He is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at GTE Financial, almost a $3 billion credit union down in the Tampa Bay area. Any thoughts on building a cybercrime version of Waze? Cybercrime, it's crimes, but not the same thing. I really like where you're going with that, Chad. That's a dang good thought and question.
That is a great question. And, I would tell you the short answer to that is we've positioned Crime-Tel to be able to address the need for sharing information relative to cyber security. In fact, I'm going to take a quote from a sort of very influential and a true professional in the name of retired Admiral Mike Rogers, who was the head of the National Security Agency, who less than a year ago and is now out on the speaking circuit, has emphasized that in order for the private sector to get ahead of cyber threats and risks, it was his recommendation that the private sector start to consider outside the box of competitiveness, a willingness to be collaborative. And even so to the point where he had suggested such things as tracking and trending the footprint of cyber attack information and then disseminating that within the private sector through peers would lead to, certainly a better position to start to become more proactive rather than being reactive to the situation. Can Crime-Tel serve that particular purpose? We absolutely believe it can, with some minor modifications, and we believe those modifications would best be served and born from a discussion within a voice of customer, and certainly embodied within a QSO that we seek to form.
That's a really nice answer. I like that. I wanted to do a little sidestep. I had a call earlier today with one of our credit union CEOs from Broward County, Florida, and he said that they had a recent, they're a state chartered credit union. They had a recent exam. They hit the daily double and had not only the state regulators, but they had the NCUA in there as well. And they had an NCUA IT specialist, Michael Wilson, and he really had some very interesting things. And I believe Brandy, he's from Tuscaloosa, is what I was told. So that's right there in your hometown there. And anyway, he said that they had several different kinds of policies that they had not put on there, that they needed to add. And so I've asked that CEO to please send that to us or to me, and I'll go ahead and put that out in one of our newsletters, because there's absolutely no reason why everybody has to get written up for the same, or not written up, but if you know that the examiners are looking for something, by gosh, let's go ahead and get ahead of that and deal with it before they ask for it. It just works way, way, way better. So anyway, that's we are getting close to the witching hour. We got about 3 minutes left, and I'm not seeing any other chats here. I just admitted somebody, which I'm hoping they didn't get the time zone change wrong. But we did record this program. So, and if somebody is interested in getting a copy of the recorded program, we'll certainly be able to make that available. It usually takes me 2, 3, 4 days to get that processed by our Growth by Design team. And we'll be able to make that available in the not too distant future. Any last questions for the good of the order?
Hey, Bill, can I elaborate on my question regarding the cybercrime?
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
What we're seeing here in Tampa area is more of a the most fraud we have is basically an account takeover type fraud, where these users are getting into the access into these accounts by phishing members or by actually even just utilizing one-time passcode, text messages where they'll convince the member that it's the bank, it's the credit union calling, and to give them the number over the phone. However it is, they eventually get a crime, or they eventually get the account and they take over the account. They're not doing things as far as changing addresses and whatnot, because that triggers bells and whistles. What they're doing is just setting up external accounts or setting up Zelle payments and zelling that money out of the account. But what we're seeing is we're trending known IPs or UUIDs as far as like iPhones have a UUID. We have known bad UUIDs that these are coming from. So if there was a consortium of bad known IP addresses or UUIDs that you can make an API call to as the member is connecting in, that we could check this consortium of bad database, or this bad database of bad UUIDs or IPs or whatever other information you want to store to verify whether or not it's coming from a legit source or not. And that's kind of what we thought. That's what I kind of thought what you guys were working on.
I like where you're going with that. It's really not too much different than, it's just more elaborate than like check systems. We don't want somebody who's committed fraud over at Grow to come to GTE and equally commit the same kind of fraud. And that's kind of like what happened last year or 10 years ago. This account takeover. Whew, that's happening so darn fast. It's just hard to almost keep up with it. That's a really great point, Chad. Thank you.
Like the best part about Waze as a product is I can add on the fly, because I can literally, so if GT is getting hit by some known bad cell phone, then we can actually add to that site right away, and then others would know that's a bad UID.
Chad, great question. Love your insight. Obviously you're very challenged down there. One of the things that I'd like to add is that what we've created a facilitation tool, right? This is a utility. The utility can be structured to address numerous issues. It only has a dependency on the governance of the group and what it is that they seek to track and be collaborative about. In the account takeover, that is traveling at warp factor speed, which employs, let me give you an example. So I spoke to an insurance company that insures all of the municipalities up here in Massachusetts. And they were talking about the problem of spear phishing in the government sector, who have a lot of the account relationships of the small municipalities rest with the credit unions. Being able to track and trend an emerging trend where that is becoming problematic in a specific geographical region starts to serve a beneficial purpose to create an awareness. One of the other things that I do want to mention about Crime-Tel as a potential go forward, just for thought, is that there's a lot of good effort being put out by individual credit unions on their webpage to educate the customer, your members. And I think Crime-Tel can actually benefit that space as well. As we move forward and get a little bit down the road into the commercial marketplace with this, taking advantage of this education, what we say is we use the word teach through education, awareness, communication, and help. Take these trends, take this information, and then translate it into educational materials that can then be shared to the individual credit union's membership. Will go a long way to helping extend that wall of protection through the community, so that people become more aware. Being aware helps become preventative.
All right, well, As we get ready to conclude this program, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their very busy schedules. Really appreciate these excellent questions that we got there. And we will obviously stay in touch and see if this makes sense for us to push this thing forward. I hope you all have a great rest of the day. I want to thank Chris. I want to thank his whole team for participating today. And I want to thank you guys for participating as well. Y'all have a great day, and I hope to see you next month down in Orlando.
And thank you all for your time.